Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Okay, so Vegas was a bust. I could drink my problems away, or I could have put my money into a podcast that I love. Like, patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the buy-in at the blackjack table that I just flipped over, you can help us with cost of housing and afford us more time to make the podcast you like even better. Because it's not Vino Veritas, it's N Vino Veritas. Now again, that's patreon.com/evacstation. Well, bottoms up.
When I was 17, I drank some very good beer. I purchased with a fake ID. My name was Brian McGee. I stayed up listening to Queen when I was 17.
I don't know if my wife left me because of my podcasting, or if I started podcasting because my wife left me. Either way, this is the After Credits cast, and I am Aaron J. Waseska, and with me today, I'm not alone. I've got Ryan Metters.
Hello there. That's a real callback to the movie, man.
A little bit. Just to make sure everyone's on the same page, my wife didn't leave me. She's out with a friend tonight. It's fine. Everything's good. You can follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, or Facebook. You can also go to various podcast platforms of choice. I feel like there's an echo in here because we've been moving stuff in the apartment, so some of the stuff on the walls is gone. I'm hoping it doesn't come in the recording. That'll be interesting. But the platforms you can find us on are Patreon, YouTube, Peepa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. And if you want to reach out to us directly, there's a fancy little email you can go to. Ryan, what is that email?
That is the whole year in excuse me. That is evacstation@gmail.com.
I like that hotel name because it could be a pun at the same time, and it made me
was
smile.
So good. It was real good.
Before we get into today's movie, let's get to a quick little positive spin on what you watching. Ryan, what have you been watching that isn't this movie?
Oh, man. Well, I love those positive movies, or at least my girlfriend does. So, per her request, because new episodes are coming up in June, I have took it upon myself to catch up on the latest season of The Handmaid's Tale. It's so light and cheery. No, it's a really good season. It's a remarkably well done show. Very artistic, very powerful. It's just really fucking sad and tragic, and it's a stretch for me because I like the way I watch movies that I love to get into and really get into the protagonist and really feel what they're feeling and go along with them for the ride. I have to forcibly pull myself back when watching Handmaid's Tale, because if I do, I will just go into a spiraling depression and will never come out of it if I try to put myself in the shoes.
I wonder if they had that problem with this movie.
Because that's super dystopian. Yeah. I had a great week. Thanks for asking. It's just full of happy and cheery fucking shows.
I'll try to throw something a little positive here. So, I've been watching some other YouTube videos, and one recommended this anime for me. I don't watch anime, but I did read the manga, which I've been reading on the bus and at home and in between stuff and all that stuff. It's fun. It is called Kaguya-sama Love is War. Have you heard of this, Ryan?
I have
okay.
not.
Are you familiar with Death Note?
What's the synopsis there?
Okay,
yes,
we have a good starting.
100% familiar with Death Note.
Kaguya-sama Love is War takes the psychological battle, non-battle manga approach. Basically, it's written and illustrated in a way that's kind of similar to battle manga in the same vein like Death Note was, where it's you have these very dramatic action scenes for very mundane things. The battle that we're speaking of is between two high school people, the president of the student council and the vice president of the student council, who both have feelings for each other, but both are so prideful that they don't want to admit it, and they want to make the other one admit it first. So when it was first pitched to me, I was kind of like, this is just a rom-com. It's just kind of dumb. But then I saw the video. He kind of broke it down a bit more. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shake. I'll give it a fair shake. I jumped in, and I gave it a couple chapters, and within a week, I'm already at chapter 60. Here's the thing, though. It's not so much that the romance is, like, what I'm in for. There's a lot of good side characters involved, and while there's a lot of, like, chapters in between the big moments that really just fucking hit home just how good these two are together, there's a lot of, like, goofy chapters in between that just kind of, like, pull you away, but the chapters that really hit home, dude, they hit home so fucking hard. Jesus Christ. There's one where they go to a fireworks festival, and some obstacles get in the way of making it happen, and then one of the protagonists, Miyuki, the boy, he pulls a real fucking left field, like whammy for this one. It works really well. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And of course, then, like, a chapter or two later, it goes back to their usual shenanigans. Like, oh, you were so close. Why aren't you getting back together now? Do something, god damn it.
There are only 12 episodes,
Yep.
and it's on Crunchyroll?
Yeah, it just started its anime season. It's so good.
Well,
It's so good.
Oh, so is it?
Yeah,
it's
so,
not.
So the manga's
complete,
ongoing, and the anime I think
that,
just started this past
right?
season. So it's coming up. It's coming going.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm falling in love with
that.
this way harder than I thought I was
Really
going
cool.
to, and I'm very surprised with that. So for anyone who's not seen it, again, it is Love is War, which you can find on various manga sites, or if you want to find it on Crunchyroll for the anime version, Ryan's got you covered. Going away from happy-go-lucky high school romance between two fucking tsunderes, we're gonna jump into this episode. We have another Ranger in the Cager for you, boys. This week is 1995's Leaving Las Vegas. Oh boy. Written and directed by Mike Figgis and based on a John O'Brien novel, this film went on to make $32 million and 29,000 on top of that, which is roughly 8 times what it cost. This is a very cheap movie. Very cheap. What's more, that's just more money in the pockets for our cast for Julian Sands, Richard Lewis, Steven Weber, Elizabeth Shue, and tonight's high roller, Nicolas Cage. The awards for this movie, there's a few good ones. The movie is scored Best Feature, Best Director, and Best Female Lead from various awards that I'm about to mention because Nick Cage has won many awards for his performance, including an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a SAG Award, a Felix Award, an ACCA Award, a BSFC Award. These are all critic associations, by the way, these next few. CFCA, the DFWFCA, the LAFCA, and an NBR Award, an NSFC Award, NYFCC, which is New York, for those who are keeping up, a Silver Seashell, and an STFC Award for his performance. That's a lot of damn awards. It's a lot of damn awards.
Man.
Ryan, you got some fun facts for me?
Are there? I don't know if they're fun,
what do
but
you got?
I have facts. I have facts about this movie. All right. Well, for starters, Ben does not eat. Ben, which is Nicolas Cage's character, does not eat a single thing during the entire film. Now, this reinforces his dependence. Jesus. On alcohol, as chronic alcoholics usually forget to eat or can't actually force food down. Now, during the restaurant scene, he puts spaghetti on his fork, but actually doesn't eat it. And when Sarah fixes him rice, he eats an ice cube instead. So small touches that really sell the character. It's one of the things that make this a critically acclaimed role. Now, next up, Nicolas Cage actually researched his character by binge drinking and visiting many hospitalized career alcoholics. Yeah. Elizabeth Shue also associated with prostitutes and interviewed them on the Strip in Las Vegas to also get into her role as well. And final quote-unquote fun fact, a well-known drink manufacturer objected to a man drinking himself to death, so they had every shot that had a bottle of their product clearly visible in the negative. This was electronically changed to mask the label on the bottle. Because this movie is not great press for alcohol manufacturers. It really isn't. It really isn't. So this makes a lot of sense.
That's not surprising by any means. And no, I'm excited to get to this one here. So we'll do some initial thoughts real quick. I'll just start by saying Ryan and I picked both 2 movies for this list, then we both agreed on the 5th movie, which you'll hear about here in a few episodes. And I picked this one and our other non-action centric one. This one in particular because I heard Nick Cage won an Oscar for it, and I have some pretty high expectations. I'm like, you know what? Everyone's giving shit about Nick Cage's acting performances and basically everything. Let's just see what his Oscar-worthy performance is. Coming out of this one, man, it was depressing, it was bleak, but in a way, I kind of feel like there's some deep themes and meaning behind it that is definitely worth discussing, even though, like I said, it's a hard one to get through, without question.
Alright. Well, following up on that, I definitely had a hard time watching this movie. I was live texting Aaron while I was watching it, and I told him I had to stop like every 5 minutes because like my secondhand embarrassment was kicking in so bad. It was just like it was like cringy and really hard to watch, but it was so real and true to form. And I think that's honestly what is the huge selling point of it, because the level of degeneracy it reaches is ridiculous, but the realism of it makes it tragically depressing. Like, knowing that this is actually the depth of human interaction, and like there are real life people who are this bad and are this hurt inside that they have to resort to these methods to kind of find some solace in themselves. The truth that's brought to this is really hard. It's really bleak. It's really depressing, but it's real. And I can absolutely believe that he won several awards for this. As difficult as this was to watch, sometimes the truth hurts, and he put it on display. On this one.
And that actually does remind me, I have a big question I want to ask you before we get too deep into conversation, but that'll be after the synopsis, so don't let me forget about that.
Yeah, in case you listeners were haven't caught on yet, this is going to be a different podcast. This is not the typical
be reminiscent of Grave of Fireflies. It's not quite on that same level, but it'll have a similar tone to it.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yep.
All right, let's do this, man. Go
Ben
ahead.
is a drunk who can't seem to hold his life together in LA. When he's let go from his job of writing and or editing screenplays, he decides to torch the pile and move on out to Vegas with his severance money. He runs into a prostitute named Sarah who works for a Latvian man whose name I don't actually remember. When she meets Ben, he pays her to have for a night. But rather than get busy, he just gets drunk and tells her his plan to drink himself to death, and she stays with him, finding comfort in his company. When she returns to the Latvian guy I previously mentioned, he cuts her and slaps her for coming up short on cash. She goes to make up for it, and even comes back in the next scene with a fistful of dollars. Unfortunately for our Latvian friend, friend in air quotes. He is killed by other gangsters, pimps, someone. They don't really get into it. Sarah seeks out Ben again, and the two go to dinner. They forge a relationship with one rule. Sarah cannot ask Ben to stop drinking. The relationship starts off fine enough, but Ben is triggered into remembering his former family during a night at a casino, and things seem to go downhill from there. Enough time passes, and Sarah's eventually fed up with Ben's drinking and asks him to go see a doctor. Too inebriated to express his feelings, Ben instead finds another prostitute and brings her to Sarah's home, where he's been staying. Obviously, it's kind of a deal breaker, so Ben, you're out. Sarah goes back to work, only to be raped by a trio of assholes with a camera. She gets no sympathy from anyone, as they immediately can tell she's a prostitute from this, and apparently not worthy of human kindness. That's a low bar, I guess. Because of this, she's also evicted. Ben then gives her a call, telling her he's on his deathbed. She goes to him and they finally have sex. When he wakes up, he dies in her arms, and it seems she's turned her life around afterwards, but that's probably a different story for a different film. Hard to come up with good jokes for that one. Hard to come up with good jokes for that.
Yeah, that was the movie. That was it right there.
So let me start things off real quick,
Jesus.
Ryan. So I know you're aware, but the audience may not be aware. I do not drink at all. I have zero experience with alcohol in any capacity. So my perspective on this is certainly biased against Ben's character and his choice of lifestyle. So Ryan, as someone who has partaken in various liquors and who has actually been drunk on the podcast before, can you give me perspective and help me understand exactly, get me into Ben's headspace on any level at all?
Oh man. Okay. Well, there's about a mile of difference between casually enjoying a drink and the level
I fully
of
understand
dependency that Ben yeah. No, I feel the need to preface that because damn, no, let's just go there. I have close family members who are alcoholics, and it's living with them in that environment. For the longest time, it made me swear to never drink. Period, because the need to get away from reality can be so all-encompassing that you literally want to spend your entire day in an altered mind state, because troubling thoughts are easier to shrug off when you're drunk. Kind of, if you can keep yourself distracted. It's easier to distract yourself while you're drunk. It's a double-edged sword, because alcohol is a depressant, and if you don't have anything to take your mind off of the really bad thoughts, then the really bad thoughts get amplified, and then it could lead to some really destructive behavior when that does happen. I can say the first time that I moved to drink was one of the lowest points of my life. And it was partially to escape the feelings that I was feeling. So I can 100% say that the seeking solace in the bottom of a bottle is absolutely a thing that can happen. Have I experienced it or seen it to Ben's extent in the past? No. And of course, it's Nicolas Cage, so he does everything big and blown up. And it was exaggerated to the point where it was hard to watch because it was so exaggerated, and it wasn't fun.
Face-off exaggerated.
It wasn't taking something. Right, it wasn't taking something enjoyable and then blowing up to level 18. It was taking something horrible and blowing it up to level 18. So it's hard to you definitely shy away from it at the beginning. But as the story goes a little deeper, and you don't the first real line I remember of this movie for me was when he was drunk and he had the prostitute in like the prologue of the movie essentially, and he says slurringly, "I don't know if I started drinking because my wife left me, or if my wife left me because I started drinking." Like when you start getting those real, like you start getting hints of the pain that he's dealing with, which is so like world shattering that he hides in like 18 bottles and like a semblance of a life. That's when the reality of it really starts to settle in. So I can definitely say it's grounded.
Yeah,
in reality.
I'll weigh in real
That's
quick.
for
So I
sure.
don't have any individual or personal experience drinking myself, like I mentioned, but the reason for that is because I've got, like you said, family members who've also had their lives kind of turned upside down by alcoholism, drug addiction, stuff like that. In one particular case, my grandpa actually, long before I was born, back when my dad was still a teenager, they got divorced back in the day because, you know, he was an alcoholic and got in all this kind of trouble. And from what I've been told, he'd almost even killed himself at one point. But he found Alcoholics Anonymous, and at the end of his life, he'd become a treasurer of the organization in a local chapter, and actually had been able to take his negative experiences and help hundreds of people through the program. And when he went to his funeral a few years ago, there were so many people I'd never seen before, but every one of them had been someone he'd helped along the way. And it was just kind of, it was a little sad, but also incredibly heartwarming to know that these people who were going through similar problems, like what he went through, like what Ben exaggeratedly is going through here, and just seeing that a lot of them are trying to turn their lives around, or trying to make themselves, you know, not like just to reattach themselves to reality, I guess is the best way to put it. And I don't know, it's just something about that kind of got to me a little bit. And it's like, I'm glad I never got into this kind of arguably bad habit, depending on who you ask. I know a lot of people, back in college, there were a lot of people I knew who tried to get me to drink. I'm like, nah, that ain't happening, man. And I think I've definitely gotten a little more steadfast on that opinion, because I feel like if I did start taking up that kind of habit, it would kind of be a slap in the face to everything my grandpa did back to make AA and help all those people. So I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. But I have seen a lot.
That is totally.
And I've seen a lot of people
100%,
other than him, obviously brother and uncles and whatnot, who've gone through this. But no, that's the one I wanted to bring up, because I know there's a lot of people out there who do suffer from addictions and whatnot. And as he would say, the program works if you work it. So if you guys do actually need help out there, definitely seek out some local chapter of your AA, whatever other addicts groups, support groups you can find out, because they're there to help you, man. You don't have to struggle with this alone. Figured that'd be a good little PSA to add in there.
Yeah. Well, you picked a lovely light question to start.
It makes sense though, because I've never been I've never been a drinker, so I had to get some perspective.
It does, but you picked the lightest question to start with. I love it.
Okay.
Oh,
So let's jump into the film a little bit more directly here. So in one of the earliest scenes, Ben is fired, and he torches the hell out of a bunch of screenplays and a bunch of different writings and whatnot. What are your thoughts on this scene? Do you think there's a deeper meaning behind it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it really drives in the point that he's giving up on life before he actually says it. And I really like the way it's done, because there's a part of you, like when you originally see it, it's just like, well, he's drinking while doing it, and he's just like, well, I'm gonna move to Las Vegas, and he's like, I don't really want to take all this shit with me, so fuck it, burn it. And like, there's a part of you that kind of shies away from it, because you feel like it's just him recklessly destroying like treasured things that he should have more attachment to, but he doesn't. But that really starts to change when you see like the picture of his wife and his son, whom you never fucking heard of at this point. You heard about the wife, but you also didn't know he had a son. And he's burning like the only picture that we see of them for the entire movie. And his son's bike, like in the midst of all of his possessions. The screenplays and whatnot, I kind of shrugged off. He's just like, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care at this point. But when I saw that, it was a hint towards the fact that like towards like the deeper meaning behind it. And I think that scene is build up for when he finally meets Sarah and they're talking and he says, and she asks, so why did you move to Vegas? And he says, to drink myself to death. Like, I think like that scene gives that line the weight to know that like he is dead serious. Like this is an extended.
I agree. I'm going to add to it too. Actually, I think that the screenplays do have some significance. Not as much as the photo, obviously, but there's an old adage that if you burn a person's book or burn their ideas, you're technically killing the person who made those ideas. And so I'm thinking that some of these that the screenplays he's working on are not just the ones that he's editing, but maybe stuff he's written, and he's got a hand in it, even if he's just editing it, because he's making changes, he's adding his thoughts to them. He's burning away his old life. He's basically, like as you said, killing himself. He's getting rid of all of his past. He's getting rid of every aspect of it, from his from the family he's had to the career to just the creative, joyous part of his life. He's just burning it all away because none of it matters to him. None of it holds any meaning to him anymore. And that...
I can see that. I can see that holding a lot of weight with you personally, as you are a hell of a creator and like you create so many things. So like seeing a fellow creator kind of destroy their life's work. Yeah.
So there's definitely a little bit more to it than that, but I definitely think we're both right on the fact that this is basically the beginning of his suicide. He's basically killing himself here mentally and spiritually before he actually does it physically, I think. So definitely a strong start to where this is going here. So next up on my list here, I'm going to go to a funnier question here. It's a throwaway line in the film, but I am very curious. Why would Ben want to fuck the cat in the hat?
Oh man.
I latched on that one like a motherfucker, because what the fuck was that about?
I don't know. Honestly, I could say that Ben has a really, really interesting relationship with language throughout the entire film. I could say that it's actually like his all of his dialogue and how he interacts with people. Aside from like there are a good amount of bits where he's just really crass and straight to the point. But just the silly throwaway poetic lines, I could see Ben having a very real affectation towards Dr. Seuss and his command of language. So, and of course he's drunk, so why wouldn't
What's funny is I bring this up, and the other day we were watching The Flash on Netflix again. We're on season 3 now. And just below that, they added Cat in the Hat on Netflix. I'm seeing Mike Myers' horrible face, and I'm like, no, burn it with fire. Back on topic.
Kill it.
So I guess it's kind of leads to my next question here. So that line in particular is said to a woman he's trying to, quote unquote, court, or to more specifically, have sex with. He has a lot of very sketchy, derogative things he says to a lot of different women in the movie. What do you think that is saying about him, or even men in general, in this film? And do you think this is a kind of progressive stance for a 1995 film? Yeah, I'm throwing some hardballs tonight.
Yeah, man, Jesus Christ. Whew. I would say that this film is progressive in the way that it's really frank in how in the interactions between men and women when there's no camera, when they're not on display, when it's just like it's real. Like I could 100% like envision these things being said and these things happening in like in Vegas. I can 100% see that happening. So I think the movie is progressive in the fact
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't shy away from that. It puts the limelight on like the front, and like really takes a stark lens as to what's going on. As far as what it says about Ben, I think Ben at that point is kind of emulating a really ugly version of what he thinks
Kind of
works
like, and I'm
to
gonna
catch the
sidebar here.
men's
So it's kind of
attention.
like how when Spider-Man gets the Venom symbiote in Spider-Man 3, he acts like what he thinks a cool guy acts like. Okay, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, except there's no emo hair fucking flip and horrible, horrible, horrible dancing. Toby, why did you let them talk you into that scene? I'm sorry. Um, I would say that. I would say that. And the reason why is because when it's with Sarah, and like when it's with Sarah, he starts off being very frank and like direct to the point, like I would like to give you $500 to fuck me. And just kind of gets right to it. But when they actually get into the room and he starts kind of being more vulnerable, and he, like, you realize the only thing that he actually wants is someone to be with him. He just wants someone to talk, someone to just be there and be around him, despite the fact that he is like as twisted as he is. And the fact that Sarah can see all of that and still stays with him is one of the focal points. It's pretty much why he's drawn to her character, not because she's super sexy, although Elizabeth Shue is amazingly gorgeous. But it's the acceptance, I think, that he falls for. It's the fact that he doesn't have to put on that act, what he thinks will get her. He can actually be himself, and the fact that she sees like the good and the bad and still sticks around, I
Nice,
think, is
nice.
what he sticks with her for.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I want to add that a lot of the comments he makes, especially earlier on, like during the scene where he's at the bank.
Oh fuck, man,
I
that
saw
was
that. I'm like,
so
I saw that. I turned to
embarrassing.
Amanda. I'm like, so are these the kind of comments you get on
Jesus.
OK Cupid from people who weren't me? And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, this is a very ahead of its time
Oh
film if you really
god.
consider that option there.
Ugh.
Because this is the kind of like
Ugh.
woke, like I'm trying to think of the word. It's the very woke, like in your face, like, hey, look at what these assholes are doing approach that you wouldn't expect from the '90s, because the '90s were a very quote unquote innocent time, and
Yeah, this entire movie, I could
it
not believe it was
it feels like a
1995.
2010
I
kind of film,
could
right?
not believe it. Like it's so stark and like in your face. I couldn't believe it was the 90s. I like everything about the movie screamed the 90s, but at the same time it's just like the fact that anybody would be this brave to pull this off in 1995 blew my mind. I was actually just mentioning before we started recording that I rewatched the YouTube video that kind of set us on this path, where he's talking about all of his iconic roles, and In the when he's talking about leaving Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage actually goes into it saying, "I went into this movie thinking I'm never going to win an Academy Award for this. Nobody wants to see this, but I'm so in love with the story and I think it's so great. I just I'm making it just for the joy of making it. I want to get really punk rock with it. I just want to go into it and really make it, and just for the sake of the
very
art,
uninhibited,
just for the sake of the story that we be telling." And it's super uninhibited. It's he literally goes into it and just doesn't give a fuck. And I think the amount, the nonchalance that it shows towards the Academy, and you can there are a lot of movies that are straight up Oscar bait. They're making this to get an Oscar, and it's 100% apparent in everything about the movie. But this one, you can tell it's kind of so Gonzo style, and it's purely for the sake of the story that it's trying to tell. Every piece of energy in this movie, it goes towards the meaning of the story, not towards how it's going to be perceived, but towards the story that they're telling. And I can 100% see why it won so many awards, because it's truly a movie that's made.
And I want to say too that I think there's 3 classes of film that are released throughout the year. There's your, like you said, Oscar bait films that are made to win awards. There are your money makers, your blockbusters. That's your Marvel, your Star Wars, all the ones that are designed to basically bring the studio money to fund smaller projects like this. And then you have films like this that are put out there, and there's no expectation to win awards. There's no expectation for it's just trying to tell a good, captivating story that actually means something. And I think these are the ones, Grave of Fireflies, other ones we've mentioned before like this, these are the ones that actually deserve to win awards, because they actually stick to their guns and what they want to do. They don't follow conventions 100%, and they aren't out to make money or get notoriety. They're just trying to tell a captivating story that it may not hit every note, it may not be the best thing, but they're definitely telling you something that is going to have far more depth than any of the other things we mentioned.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and it's one of this more than I want to say this is one of the best movies that we get to review this year, and the reason why is because it's so hard, it's so difficult. If you watch it once, trying not to pay attention to it because it's making you so uncomfortable, you're going to miss a whole bunch of shit. But if you actually sit with it, there's such a wealth, there's such a depth to it. It's a movie that's saying a lot. It actually is saying a lot. And it's one of the more artistic movies that we've actually gotten to tackle. And it definitely made me uncomfortable while watching it. But once you get past that, and once you really try to get into what the story is saying, in the midst of the uncomfort, there's so much there. There's so much there to really dive into, and it's. I'm glad you picked it. I was super mad that you picked it in the middle of the movie. I was like, why is he making me watch this movie? Let's get back to fun, Nick Cage.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Really glad that you picked this movie.
I think it was definitely a pick I was not expecting to love as much as I'm getting into here. But I love it when we can find something that like this, or I'm gonna harp back on it again, Grave of Fireflies, where it's you don't expect it to hit you as hard as it does, but when it does, man, does it hit you hard. I definitely will say, though, that since we are going to take a break from Marvel films going forward, at least until Phase 4 is done, because I feel like I want to give it a little bit of breathing room. We might have more room in next year's schedule should we decide to continue. For more artsy films like this. Not this exactly, but definitely more independent studios or smaller films, just to kind of branch out and do different things. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, we will. We will. And if you want to see more artsy films, or you want to go on ahead and recommend a particular film that you're interested in, please reach out to us at evacstation@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your recommendations.
If you want to help us stay around too,
we'd
be
love
able to
to
do
take a
those. Go to
stab at it.
patreon.com/evacstation. And I do have some more questions, though.
Please do. Yes, 100%.
No, I love it.
I just wanted to
we're
work the
synergizing
plug
here.
in, man.
Okay, so you explained why Ben wants to stay with Sarah. I think it's pretty obvious. She is like a home, a safety net for him, so to speak. Why does Sarah have any attraction or desire to stay with Ben?
Well, I think so. She goes into it a little bit at the beginning of the movie. And side note, I love the device that they use where essentially she's talking to someone, and they keep going back to it time and time again. But you don't really know who she's talking to. It's almost like she's in a therapy session, and I kind of choose to believe that that's the case. Like sometime in the future after all of this has actually happened, but she's like in therapy and like talking to somebody about all of these things. But she says, like, she starts off by like how she was really good at her job because she walked into a room after the money's been dealt with, and within seconds, she could tell that this was that person's fantasy, and this was that person's fantasy, and this was how they actually wanted it to go down. This was their fantasy. This is how they wanted it, and she could be that for them instantly. But with Ben, it was the fact that she didn't need to act, that she felt like her. She loved his drama. She loved like the way he used words and all of those things. But at the end of the day, he saw her, not the face that she put on to be his fantasy, because he had no fantasy aside from just being with her. And I think it gets to the heart of also what he sees in Sarah. You know, at the end of the day, he wanted to just be with someone who saw the good and the bad of him and still decided to stay. And she wanted something very similar to that, where there was somebody who didn't ask her to be anything else, that didn't want her to like put on a show or an act, but just wanted to be with her. And it made her feel less alone. Because when you put on a mask, you're showing people a side of yourself that doesn't actually exist. It's not you. It's how you
It's your persona.
Think they want you to be. Shut up! Get out of here!
No, it really is, though.
I'm not playing this game.
It actually is what it is.
I'll play it one day. I will. Yes. But I think I know I'm meandering, but I think that's what it is. It gets to, like, I think the fact that they wanted such similar things as each other, and they were uniquely suited to give it to the other person, despite staggering deficiencies in themselves as people, that really strengthened the relationship. And it was so bad because both of their personalities were very destructive, and it was like watching a slow motion train wreck, but at the same time there was also something really heartwarming about it and something very real. I think at the end of the day we want to be with people who will accept us for ourselves, and that's really what makes people stick together.
So I want to add to
that.
I have some thoughts on this. So I think I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this here. Please. So I think that she saw Ben and what he was going through, what he was struggling with. And I think that the other key thing to note here is that when Ben left his old life, he was leaving behind a life of lies. He was leaving behind a life that that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to break free and do a life live a life that he wanted, that wasn't constrained by any of these social norms like work or family or anything like that. So in a sense, he is living his quote unquote truth here in Vegas, so to speak. Earlier in the film, you hear Sarah talk about how this life, the life of being a prostitute, it's what she's always wanted, or at least she has everything, claims she's exactly how she wants it. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But I would argue that is also a lie, and I think that what she really wants is to feel needed, to feel like she's part of something bigger. And I think that having Ben be dependent on her, by Ben being this, for lack of a better term, helpless idiot just wandering around Vegas, she felt like she could be of use to somebody. She felt like she could actually be needed, be depended on. I think it was kind of like her way of breaking out of the lie of her life she had and finding something with more meaning and depth for herself, and something that she could actually be kind of happy with. And I think that's ultimately leads her to her quote-unquote freedom at the end of the film.
Interesting. I agree with the take that she wanted to feel needed. Like, I 100% agree with that take. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that with the idea that Ben was essentially living a lie.
Well, no, he's living his truth in
Vegas.
I think he was living a lie in LA before he comes to Vegas.
No.
Okay.
Right. No. Sorry. That's what I meant. I don't necessarily think he was living a lie. I think that in Vegas, in LA, because I think LA and then I think Las Vegas, and then I get them confused. I think in LA, what he was living wasn't necessarily a lie, but rather it was his old life, or he was trying to hold on to semblances of his old life. And the way I see that is because when I think he's genuinely like torn up when he gets let go from his job, and he's interacting with these people who know him from his life, but nobody wants to actually deal with him in LA. Like the movie starts off with him like going up to some people, like some like actual like colleagues that he's worked with, and asking for money to drink. And they're like, look, here's everything in my wallet. Do me a favor, don't drink it here. And please don't contact me again. Like we see him trying to hold on to like these people that he knows and this life that was his, but you can tell that he can't. And I think that genuinely pains him. But I don't think it's necessarily a lie. It's just something that he wants to hold on to but can't. And so when he goes to Las Vegas, I don't think it's necessarily him living his truth. It's him accepting that his old life is over. And rather than trying to find a new life, he's just like, well, if my life is over, then I'm going to spend the rest of it drunk out of my fucking mind and just seeing new shit. So
all right.
Yeah.
So my next question actually just go back to Ben. So there's a scene where he's in the casino with Sarah, and they're having a fun time playing games, and they're at the blackjack table, I think is what it is. And in this scene, a waitress comes over, talks to him for a second, and then he flips the table, and talks about his son for a second before he gets dragged off, and that scene cuts out to black before it goes to the next scene. Ryan, this scene went by very quick for me, and I have to ask you, did you catch what was said before he started flipping out that caused him to flip out? I didn't either, and I'd like just sit here.
I did not, and this is. I mean, I kind of here's the thing. It was really interesting going back to the GQ YouTube video and hearing him talk about it. And he mentioned something about the line being like he was his father or something like that. I did not catch it. But like that's what really caused him to flip out. So like him, like I think there was something in particular about gambling that really set him on edge. Which shocked the hell out of me because he, like, with Sarah, he seems so lucid about his condition. And I mean, like, with Sarah, like, while they're at home, he seems really, really, like, aware of just how bad his shit is and potential triggers and what have you. So when she says, hey, do you want to go gambling one day? Like, do you want to go gambling tonight? And he says, oh, well, I hadn't planned on it. If you can hold the rest of my money, I think I could go spend like a couple $100 at a casino. Sure. But then like he loses at like they get to the casino and he loses at like the first slot machine that he gets to.
As you do.
And almost flips out. Like instantly. And I'm like, okay, so there's something there. There's something like big there. And he mentioned before this happened that it's something about being with Sarah. It's almost like an antidote to the drinking because he's of course constantly drunk, but there's something about her that balances him out, and that it's been really, really good thus far, but that can't last. I loved that line, and I loved how lucid he was about that. So it's almost like he was about to lose his shit just at the slot machine, and then he kissed Sarah to try and balance himself out. So I don't like. I think it was a double whammy. I think she said something that triggered a thought about his son, about his family life, and he lost it, and also the fact that he was losing at blackjack. I think it was the double whammy that caused him to fucking lose his shit. I still do not know what was actually said. That like I would love to do a deep dive into every single line of this movie so that I can see what the inspiration was. Like, what happened there?
From what you're saying here, and I'm starting to kind of picture it a bit better, it's very subtle build up to that moment. Like, there's nothing that outright states exactly what's happening or why he's getting in this way. But if you're paying attention, if you're really following along, it all comes together and makes sense, and actually is really well put together. So yeah, that Hulk, yeah.
It's really well put together, yeah. You know what? So I'm sorry. It actually brings me to a point because he mentioned the type of camera that was used in filming this movie. It said that they used a 16mm camera, and he mentioned that, you know, when you have bigger cameras, like really, really big cameras, 32mm, and they catch like this whole thing, and it's like right in your face, trying to capture your emotions, you know, as an actor, you have to work past that. You have to actively ignore that there's a big-ass black contraption staring you in your face, and you have to pretend like it's not there. But he says, with a 16mm camera that's just handheld, that's just floating around anywhere, anybody could be a great actor because you can't see the camera. And it can capture such nuance and like small emotional facets of like what the fuck is going on. Anybody could be a great actor with that kind of camera, is what he said. And that particular scene really strikes me because the way it was shot, you could tell it was shot from far away. And right, it was almost like a security camera. Like I could picture like the director having a handheld camera just looking like from a balcony at like what the fuck is going on. And So, like, it's hard to catch what was said because, like, the distance, because it wasn't mic'd and what have you. But it also it kind of makes it realistic. It kind of gives you that, like, that feeling of this is somebody who was also at the casino and was just taking a look and then saw this dude flip the fuck out, and he yelled something about he was his father, and 4 security guards rushed him, like, instantly because he
God,
flipped over
there's
a
so much
fucking
to read out of
card
this scene. It's
table.
ridiculous.
Like,
uh,
there's so much
there's
there!
so much and yet so
I'm
little.
sorry. Ask your next question. Like, it's real good. It's real good art. It's real good art because it's such a small scene, but holy shit, there's like a treasure trove of things, of artistic things to really get into in that one scene alone. Go ahead. We would talk about that scene probably for
Okay.
another
I'm
hour.
gonna jump to
So
my
go ahead,
last
ask
2
the next
questions here, and then
question.
we'll roll out. After Sarah leaves Ben for more than justifiable reasons, Sarah is raped by 3 teenagers. From a narrative perspective, why does this happen, and what are we, the audience, supposed to take away from this, if anything? This scene really kind of came out of nowhere for me, because I'm looking at it from a narrative perspective, a thematic perspective, and I'm like, she just did something good for herself. She just cleared away this problem that was going on in her life, and she gets arguably punished for it, in a sense. And I'm sitting here thinking, why is this happening to her, of all people? Like, I get in this profession, it's a danger you always have to deal with, sure. But I'm looking at this, I'm just thinking to myself, why are the film gods in particular, why is the creator of this story deciding that this needs to be what she goes through next? Because she's already been kind of crapped on a lot in this story, and I'm just trying to figure out where this is going from here.
Fuck, that's a damn good question. And I think, like, I mean, you're absolutely right. It comes out of left field for me too. I don't think I was as surprised for something bad happening to her, because it's almost a formula in the movie. Like, she's with Julian Sands' character, for fucking lack of a better term, we're just gonna call him Sergei because that's what he sounds like. She's with Sergei, and he's her pimp, and he sets her up with jobs, and she does the thing, and they make money. Boom. Like, literally the first night after she meets Ben and has, like, a really deep connection, she goes back to Sergei and is punished because she hasn't made enough money. And she tries to come up with more money, and, like, it still doesn't really work. So she goes back to Ben, and she's having a good time in spite of dealing with Ben's illness. But then when she leaves Ben again, she automatically hits like the horrible aspects of her life, and like how and the dangers inherent in her profession as well. I think the movie uses this to portray like exactly how cold and how terrible it is, like, out on the streets like that. Because you're not going to find a Ben on every corner, you know? You're not going to find the person that, like, wants to just be with you for the sake of being with you, and accepts you fully for who you are. I don't think necessarily that it punishes her for it, but it's a stark contrast to show exactly how cold this her situation is without that. Because not only does she run into these 3 assholes who who raped her. Jesus Christ. I still can't believe that fucking happened.
I'm more
in a movie in
that they kept cutting
1995.
back to it for
I
a
still
shot or
can't
two every
believe
now and then. I'm like, okay, I knew it happened. I didn't expect you guys to show more of it.
Like, damn, I still can't believe it. But I think the biggest thing that really threw me for a loop, surprisingly, was not that scene. Because like that was horrible, and I was absolutely shocked. But I think what shocked me more was the cab ride afterwards, because the cabbie is like,
He's
like
fully
he
victim
sees
blaming.
that she's gotten roughed the hell up, and at the same time, like he even goes like, you look like you're having trouble sitting down. What did you get, an unexpected rear entry last night? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? What? And like he keeps going back to it. It's not like a one-off cruel thing that he says. Because like he can already tell she's having a horrible, horrible experience right now. And all he cares about is making sure that she has the money to pay for the cab. And then after she confirms that she has it, he goes back to kind of making fun of her.
Yeah, I remember how gross this guy was when I first saw it. I'm like, man, this movie is woke as fuck, because that's kind of not changed in all these years.
Like, it's so bad. And then, like, it piles on top of it how, like, when she gets back in, and you can make the argument that her bad relationship with, like, the landlord couple at her place, like, fully stems from Ben. Like, because, like, all of a sudden this dude who's visibly fucking drunk and just a trouble and a bother is associating with this girl. And so, yeah, her stock is going down in this place. But she walks to her apartment without Ben, all in black clothes, in the shades, and the landlady like sees her, and there's just something about her, and like it's telling that it's after she gets Ben out that she's asked to leave. Like after she gets rid of the quote unquote problem, and after she has one of the most horrifying experiences of her life, that they're like, you know what? No, we can't have you here. Goodbye. So I think, I'm sorry, I meandered like crazy. But I think the movie is exploring that without that like real connection that she experienced with Ben, it's almost like life goes out of its way to remind her just how cruel life actually is, without at least that person that you can come to who wants nothing of her.
That's a very good read of it. I actually really appreciate it. I like that. That puts it in perspective in a way I didn't think about. So that's good. That's good. Final question before we wrap up. Is death a form of freedom in this film? We're hitting really hard tonight. I fucking swear.
That's a question. Hey, listeners, I'm proud of you for sticking with it, man, because this was real. This was real. I will say it is explored as a form of freedom. I think that it's interesting.
And that's how he ends up leaving,
the
is
movie
dying.
is leaving Las Vegas, because but I also make the argument that Sarah herself leaves Las Vegas, because like I feel like the like where it keeps cutting back to where she's talking to somebody, and I like the more I think of it, the more I honestly believe that she's in therapy. But it keeps cutting back to her, like it's like really removed from her situation, and like telling about it, and like really speaking to it, and like in a very honest and very frank way. I think that at the end of the movie, both of our protagonists, Ben and Sarah, they left Las Vegas. I think, like Sarah left. Sarah got herself out of that horrible situation and improved her life. But at no point in the story did I ever think that Ben was going to make it. Like, I never thought that Ben, there was going to be an out for Ben that wasn't him dying. He 100% didn't plan on it. Like, he stated from the beginning he came to Las Vegas to die. And, like, he stuck to it. But at no point does the story, like, ever hint at there's a possible way to save Ben. You know, like, it hints towards the tragedy of Ben. It hints towards, like, the deep, overwhelming, like, physically crippling pain that he hides underneath all of the alcohol that he consumes. But the movie never hints at there being another way out for him. So I think it is explored as a form of freedom. I don't think it is the only form of freedom. I think there are some people who think that it's honestly the only way that they can get out. And I think the movie does not shy away from that. But I also think that the movie says that there are other ways to get
including
out
reaching out for help
of horrible situations. And including reaching out for help, including like connecting with people. I would argue that the biggest part of the movie, that the biggest message of the movie is that the biggest help that you can have in those situations is having somebody that you can be 100% honest with, having somebody that you can connect with that will accept you. And like, I think like that is the tried and true lifeline that can save a person. And even with that, it's still not guaranteed, because Ben had that and Ben still died. But Sarah had that and was able to get out.
Very deep. I have no arguments there. I think hit the nail on the head pretty hard.
Fuck. Oh man, this is rough, man.
Well, just a quick reminder to those out there that if you are considering death as your form of freedom, be sure to reach out to the nearest suicide hotline, or to just reach out to anybody. Because
dear God, please.
Because that's a serious subject. We don't want anyone out there feeling like they're alone. So if you need help, go out there, call somebody, reach out to it. I never expected our show to last long enough for us to have that kind of conversation with the audience, but just a little PR reminder, PSA reminder. There is help out there if you need it. And speaking of reaching out to people, you can also reach out to us, ideally not about suicide, but about the films that we talk about and about what you want to see from the show. We love hearing from you, and you can reach out to us on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. You can also reach out to us through our email. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is 1-800-273-8255. It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Or you can reach out to us about more lighthearted things at evacstation@gmail.com.
I do appreciate the drop of the phone number there. I really appreciate that. We have that out there for you. Let's wrap this up real quick and move on to something a little more lighthearted.
Just a little.
So I'm going to do a quick review. For those who don't remember, it is gold through shit and all the colors, or platinum through shit and all the colors in between. Ryan, I think I get a feeling where you want to put this at, but go ahead and throw it at me. What are you thinking?
Fuck, man. Shit, man. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I will say I will say this movie is not for the faint of heart. If you are...
No.
If you are honestly just looking for something to entertain yourself, this isn't it.
This is
not it. But if you are willing to really dive into something there, if you know somebody who is going through something like this, if you yourself are experiencing something like this, and you can stand a frank, harsh look into the mirror, and really like see something to it. If you can stay in it long enough to really glean something out of it, and if our words helped in any way, then I would. I would give this a platinum. In all honesty, I would.
I've been bouncing back and forth this one a little bit between gold and platinum, but I think I've made enough comparisons to Grave of Fireflies. I think it deserves it. I think that it is definitely that same like genre of film where it's like it's not a movie for entertainment, it's not a movie for pleasure. It's a movie that's there to slap you in the face with its themes and ideas. And I think that it is very relentless in it, but it's not like overbearing either. It definitely makes its points and steps back for you to reflect on them, and I think it's really good at what it does.
Yeah, the only thing that I was hesitant about giving it a platinum for is the fact that whether or not I considered it required viewing, because I 100% think that everybody should watch Grave of Fireflies. This is not something Absolutely. That I don't think everybody needs to watch, but it's something that I think everybody can get something out of. And I 100% did not expect to walk in here and give this movie a platinum. I surely didn't. But the more we talked about it and the more we kind of delved into it, because there are a lot of movies where, to give you a peek into our production process, Aaron is 100% like he's 10 times the professional than I am. He like writes up all his shit. He really thinks his shit out. I watch the movie, I kind of ruminate on it, and then I let Aaron ask me questions, and then I answer on the fly. So I didn't expect to really come in here and give this movie a platinum, but honestly, with the breadth and the depth of the content that is explored in here, the frank light that it shows on the human condition, on the depths of human pain and suffering, and on the lengths that we are willing to go just to find connection with people. Yeah, I can't help but give this movie a platinum. So yeah, 100%.
Yep. And I'll piggyback with that a bit. I don't think it's something not everyone needs to see, but I do think that you're right. Everyone can benefit from seeing it, and it's definitely true because either you are someone who's going through similar issues, you know someone's going through similar issues, or having that perspective can help you handle people who are going through those issues when you encounter them sometime in your life, whether it becomes you or someone else. So I think there's definitely something that anyone can glean from this if they really wanted to put the effort in. But yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Again, I put up there with Grave of Fireflies, or like if I'm looking at video games, it's like Silent Hill. Its subject matter is not fun and optimistic. It's definitely got it like I said, it punches you in the face with its themes and messages, and it does not hold back. But there are important themes and important messages to take away from, and I definitely think that if you want to learn, if you want to absorb this stuff, it was worth your time. And much like AA, it works if you work it. So
I like
yeah,
that.
That's how that's how I'd put it. So thank you for listening for this week. Oh yeah, platinum, by the way, just making sure we're all on the same page. Thank you for listening this week. Next week you're gonna have a fun movie with what did I put in the schedule? I think next week is not The Rock. It was the other one. Con Air. No, Con Air was first. So next week is The Rock.
Good.
Next week is The Rock.
Get back to some irreverence. Just some fun
Next week is
shit.
The Rock, and then the week after that will be our next one we're recording, which is Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Oh boy. More addiction problems. It'll be great. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Rage in the Cage after the credits. Bye, guys.